Oh, hello. Yeah. Is the camera on?
Yes, camera on and we're live.
Are we alive now? Okay. Live, not alive. Live. Yeah, we are alive, of course. Okay. Good evening, everyone. So let's begin with a prayer. Om Naze Nam Daraje Nando Be, Taji Juju Jina Juba Yi, Sangi Jodangi no Papeso, Guna Chase Tacha, Tashi Sho, the Major President. Chimping Bagata Padamba, Gunogumbo Jay, the Maja, Lubudra Bazara. Simjedum Jelagun to Bebe, Yisum the Bazar of Double Day, Sensum the Beta Ship Bebe, they were Shapagala Chazalo, Jimbajano Padendo Jizzi, Cheresum. Saying you put a number say, and when you bop a jogundu song, Ubeduji Begano Jina, no put the water. Chazelenum de Jibegajo, Chanju Sambagala, Chazalo, Rinjin the Taji Sirginia, Duju Bazayu. Yadunda, Punza Bebe, Minugazi, when you call the Rinjita Jagajan, Chuduji watch. Gesong wood and Bebe, Trashela Mongela, Chazalo, Samba Shimbo de Josum. McDonald Gabu Yugo Song, Pakibudan, no Mimiza, Namtes Zera Zekoloda, Tisholan, we are water issue. So some so Gilik to Shipe, Jiden Kawangela, Chazalo, Dajetin der Chawazumbala, Getan Yawarsawa Kunji. The Dembe, some to Asian Rup Tashi de Lepusum, so Parasho, Dajetin der Chawazumbala, Getan Yawarsawa Kunji, the Dembes. Asian Rup Tashi de Lepusum Soparsho, Dajetin der Chawazumbala, Getan Yawarsawa Kunji, the Dembe, some to Asian Rup. Tashi de Lepusum, so Parasho. Balensebe Lama Rinpoche, Dagach. Balensebe Lama Rinpoche, Dagachi or Pemendeshula, Katin Chimbegonijus. Kusung Tuking or Drup Saldos. So I hope you all are well. And everyone keeping healthy and well. And so tonight, it's Thursday evening. Thursday, we all do meditation, as you all know, continuously. So we shall do sitting practice of meditation. And I would like to explain, before we do meditation, a little bit of Dharma talk, and hope it benefits you all. So, Shantideva says, Mi tula tenini dungi chuo cheledu. Today, Chini Nyakawe Mongbatu Sunyi Malo in the Bodhichitta Avatara teaching. He says, this vehicle, our body is like the vehicle, like a boat, that which can, only a boat can cross a river or ocean. Likewise, through this body, the vehicle of body that we achieve, we can cross only through this vehicle the ocean of suffering. So since this vehicle is so precious, precious human rebirth, if it's only through this vehicle we can cross the ocean of suffering, then Shantideva says, do not sleep, or ignorant one. He said, wake up, don't sleep. So that is the quotation from the Bodhichitta Avatara teaching. Through the Chininikawe, he further said that this vehicle of precious human rebirth will be extremely difficult to achieve. Nyekawe means extremely difficult in the future to have this vehicle of this body. Therefore, do not live in ignorant, or do not sleep ignorant one. That's what Shantideva mentioned. So then, now when we look at our life, life is basically really life means who experience life. We call life and death. So who experience life? Who experience life is the mind, and who experience the death is also mind. Beside mind, there's no phenomena which exists out of the mind. All phenomena exist within the mind, whether we live, whether we die, whether we intermediate spirit or bardo, all are experience of the mind. Our joy is also mind. Our pain is also mind. Our confusion is also mind. Our exaggeration is our mind. So everything, of course, needless to say, our ignorance and afflictive emotions is mind too. So basically, the samsara and nirvana are manifestation of this mind. Confusion is also the mind, and wisdom is also the mind, which comes out of that confusion. What is known as wisdom is also the mind. Now, since it is the mind which is the most crucial part between the body and the mind, the most crucial part is the mind. For example, traditionally, when one learns to go meditation teaching from the teacher, the first thing when you begin to learn meditation, the teachers ask you, which is more important, your body or your mind? And then you need to do meditation for like days or week or whatever until you find a clear answer. And then if you, if you say the body is more important, then you're leaving the whole mind. It is the mind, beside mind, who is there to experience the body. It's the mind which experiences you live or you die, or I'm living, I'm dying, this is my body is in pain, my body is in joy, or my body is in neutral state. All is the mind who define and have the clarity, realization of that. Beside your mind, the body can't tell anything. So therefore, finally, when you come to understand, yes, Rinpoche, between the body and the mind is the most crucial. Then that's the first step where you begin to learn meditation. You see, body, even a dead body has a body too, but without a mind, that body has no function. It has no conscience, no awareness. But the living person, has a awareness, mind, which begin to experience cold and hot and all different sensation of the body because of the awareness of the mind. So once the student come to realization that between the body and the mind is finally the most crucial part. I mean, if you are happy, it's your mind, not your piece of flesh. Of course, you can say, I feel, soft sensation and I'm happy. But that's still the mind who experiences that. So therefore, once you come to realization that between the body and between the mind is the most important, then you begin to, now look at, understand the mind. You begin to investigate what is mind and how is mind. And where is mind? And how can I keep my mind calm? And how do I keep my mind clear? What makes my mind not clear? What makes my mind confused? What makes my mind lose awareness, lose concentration, lose calm abiding? You begin to understand by investigating the mind. And furthermore, in the not just mind, when we talk about mind, it's very deep. You're talking many dimension level of mind. to the point ultimately that not just simply you begin to understand your relationship with the mind as a calm abiding state, but further finally seeing the wisdom awareness, the awareness of wisdom, the essence of the mind, that primordial awareness, what is its nature, which holds all the potential and quality of liberation and joy, the union, what is known as union of wisdom and compassion. Utterly devoid of all defilements, gross afflictive emotion, and subtle habits of afflictive emotion. Totally devoid of that, purified of that, whatever we call, whether purified or whether devoid or free of that, then trying to see the clear light. That's also the mind. So mind can go from an enlightened level, the in-between level of the gods, the demigods, the human realms, to the lower levels of being an animal, being a hungry ghost, being in hell realms, sort of all those different dimensions that we experience. It's all mind. Feeling high is the mind, feeling low is the mind. So now if you try to go and see, oh, where is the mind? Or is it something we're always trying to look for the mind, actually? But if you say mind is an object, mind is not an object. It's immaterial. It's not a material object. It's not made of stone. It's not made of flesh or bone or object-like. But rather, if you look at the mind, you inside your body, outside your body, in your brain, on your hair, on your nails, in your palm, outside your palm, everywhere in and out, you can't find the mind as an object. It's utterly, completely devoid of all material. It's devoid of shape. It's devoid of any size, shape, color, form. It's devoid of all those qualities. Totally like you can't find a speck of it. So if we say, oh, then there's no mind, then if there is no mind, then of course, there is mind because we experience joy, hot, cold, pain, pleasure, suffering, all kinds of ideas, thoughts, imagination, all arises. But from where? Since there is no object, if there is no object, then where did it begin from? And where the mind lies in the middle, and where the mind goes at the end. The birth, the place where it will stay, and finally the place it will go. If there is no place, the origin of mind, you try to look at the origin of mind, from where it came from the sky, from the stars, from the sun, moon, water, mountains, where it came from. Those places itself, if you look, the stars, the mountains, the water, they themselves are formation of particles.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. It seems like that you two actually don't know what happened.
What?
I don't know what happened. There's 19 people on one stream, and then 20 people on another stream,
Uh-huh.
and I'm working on getting those 20 people over to the right stream.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to
So both are hearing?
No, only the 19 people are hearing.
So fix it.
I am working on it.
Yeah.
I just wanted to tell
What happened before?
I don't know, Rinpoche. This has never happened before, so I don't know what happened. I have to send a new.
Sorry, so we have to take a little break so everyone can hear it. Some problem with the machine. You should tell them. You should
But
tell.
I did already. I said, here's the right link, sorry there was a problem. So then everybody should come to the right one. Now there's 39 people on the first one, so that's good. And there's still 12 people on the other one. So I'm updating the link in all the places, but that's going to take me some time.
So how many minutes it will take?
It could take like 15 minutes from Jay to send it to everybody.
15 minutes.
Yeah, there's Facebook, there's MailChimp, there's the website, there's, so,
Okay.
yeah. We could just, right now, there's 39 people on the one, on the right one, and only 12 people on the wrong one. So I can, like, slowly send the message if you want to keep teaching and people can join.
Should I stop teaching right now? Should I go on teaching?
I think it's okay to continue.
So those people will automatically get?
They'll come eventually.
I see. I'm sorry, today there is some technical problem. Yeah, very sorry.
It looks like many people are saying, yes, now I'm in the right place, great, thank you, like that. So
Okay.
they're slowly coming.
Okay. So I would suggest that after the session is over tonight, then you guys can go back and listen to what I spoke earlier. Yeah. So we are talking about, just to rephrase, those who haven't heard, I'm talking about mind. Mind not being a material, mind being immaterial. And where did the, as I said, so please go back after the session tonight and you can listen, probably it's on the YouTube and you can listen on that. But now where we reach, we are talking about origin of mind. Where, if there is a mind, if there is a mind, does the mind has a shape? Does the mind has a color? Does the mind has a size? Or whatever, where do you find that material as known as mind? Or there is no material. And then if there is a beginning, we talk where did the mind begin? Then we should look at the origin of mind, where it came from. So if you say, did the mind came from external phenomena, such as mountain, stars, sun, moon, planets, galaxies, or mountains and oceans and trees, then when we try to look at, even if we try to go as far as like sun and moon or stars, when we try to, what sun and moons are, they are also a formation of billions and trillions of particles. And each one of those particles are devoid of their inherent, if there is something, inherently there, then you do not find it either, because those atoms are devoid of inherent existence. There's nothing, if this object where you think, this, maybe the sun where the mind came from, maybe the moon where the mind came from, maybe the stars where the mind came from, maybe a planet or galaxy where them, those stars and galaxies and sun and moon, all material, means they are particles. And if the particle itself is devoid of inherent existence, the very object where you think mind may have come from, if that itself is devoid of inherent, then how can the mind come from those places? Not possible. Then you come back to your, your body. Now sums it up to the internal phenomena. Of course, you didn't find in the water, in trees, and all particles you can't find, because they themselves do not have inherent existence. How can your mind come from that? Then when you look at your own body, which is again a particle, your brains and flesh and bones and intestines and all the, our organs and all those particles, they themselves are devoid of inherent existence. How can a mind then come from that either? So then, where is the mind? It is said that if you say there is a mind, even Buddhas have not seen it as a material. And if you say, it is doesn't exist, all the experience of phenomenal world, internal phenomenal world, external phenomenon, all experienced by the mind itself. So you can't say it is not there because you experience everything. And you can't say it is there because even Buddhas have not seen as a material. So mind is immaterial. So then, now this mind, sort of like elusive, so elusive, not just elusive, it's so elusive that everyone's trying to figure out the meaning of life. And when we talk, about meaning of life, and when we talk about even the question of what is the meaning of life, it is asked by the mind. And the mind is trying to find the meaning of life. Then it's just material you can't see, it is immaterial. But yet, at the same time, you experience vividly, your joy, pain, emotions, thoughts, ideas, all comes from the mind. So this is why it is so puzzling people when they ask what's the meaning of life, because really it comes to the mind, and they couldn't figure out what mind is, where the mind is, what is mind, and therefore it's always elusive. Our whole life becomes like a suspense, like an elusive state. And as things changes, then we just simply move forward. But it isn't as simple as that, because it's come with a baggage of all thoughts, memory, experience, all the rest, as we know, the dualistic habitual experience of the mind. So now when we talk about the mind, I think that's the context. We're doing meditation tonight, then we should I would like to speak about the mind. That's exactly, meditation is understanding the mind. Meditation is not simply finally understanding the mind, but realization of the mind. It is said that if when you realize the nature of emptiness, it should be crystal clear. Without a crystal clear, total transparency in and out of such a realization without taking place, if you think I may be enlightened, that doesn't work like that. The mind should be absolutely clear of experience of non-dual. Very interesting. We know experience of duality, but very little about non-dual. We don't, most people don't have experience of non-dual. Those who are highly trained in bodhicitta mind, in relative bodhicitta mind, and absolute bodhicitta, and particularly the ultimate absolute bodhicitta mind. And through the blessing of the teacher, through that magical, as they say, it takes two to tango, like the magical blessing of the Lama, his oral instruction, introducing the nature of the mind at the right time. And the student, total openness without corrupting their mind. Because what it is, in a way, it needs like a total openness, utter openness, without any exaggeration, to see naked mind, your primordial mind, which is known as naked mind. We can use Rigpa Jenpa, the Tibetan word is. Rigpa means awareness. Jenpa means the rawness, the raw awareness, meaning without any exaggeration, without any pretense, without any corruption, to put it away, without any duality, the non-dual awareness. That can be only achieved through a tremendous merit of practicing relative bodhicitta and then absolute bodhicitta. At such point that your mind naturally drops away all pretense, all corruptions, all deceptions, all ego game, all subconscious gossip, all exaggeration. Just simply put, I can use the word, simply all exaggeration, just as it is. At that time, one realized non-duality, not with ideas and concept. Even the idea of emptiness is not going to help. You need to even drop away the idea of emptiness in order to realize non-duality. Because if you have a notion of idea of emptiness, it will obscure the true awakening of the naked realization of wisdom. And therefore, in His Holiness Dujum Rinpoche, calling the Lama far away prayer, supplication prayer, there's a line, it says, this meditation produced through mental analysis is a deceiving enemy. You have an idea of emptiness, and then you try to pour the idea of emptiness, everything is emptiness. Then that is actually the biggest danger of all, the biggest deception of all, because the Pakpe Nyamsha, the Tibetan Pakpe Nyamsha means, Pakpa means Arya. Well, first of all, Pakpa also means pig in Tibetan. The only difference, one is called exalted, exalted being is also called Pakpa, and pig is also called Pakpa. So how do you know which is which Pakpa? Is through spelling. One is like have prefix and affix later, and one is simply Pakapak. So so by spelling you can understand which Pakpa one is talking about. So Pakpe Nyamshak means the exalted being, means one who is seen the wisdom mind. The wisdom mind, here we're not talking a particular person, but generally is said the wisdom mind or wisdom nature corrupted by ngupu jigurtel, pakpe nyamsha ngupu jigurtel, means the wisdom mind is, of course, wisdom mind cannot be destroyed by objective. But there is a way of saying, I think it's more like a sarcastic way of putting it, something like that. That the wisdom, unconditioned awareness is poured upon by idea of emptiness, and that is very dangerous. So when a person begins to come close to realization of non-duality, promoted naked awareness, one is to drop away all those things. Your idea of the past, your idea of the present, your idea of the future, because they all gives you ideas. And all ideas are talking about duality, dualistic talk, dualistic conversation. And dualistic talk and dualistic conversation, it obscures your wisdom. It doesn't have the potential, it doesn't have the ability to see the awakening quality. It simply, creates more pollution. But then at the same time, that is not to say that we should not study, no ignorant person can find wisdom and realization by simply. You have to make an effort. You have to first study. Then you have to do reflection in the middle. So called the knowledge gained through hearing first, the knowledge gained through, in the middle, introspection, and finally knowledge gained through experience of meditation. Those three different kinds of levels. The knowledge gained through experience of meditation will include the experience of non-duality. The first two would not have, have some idea of non-duality, but actual non-duality is not achieved but simply by hearing, study, and then also by introspection in the middle, analyzing. It won't, because analyzing is a conceptual thought, and conceptual can create conceptual. Conceptual cannot bring about the awakening of non-conceptual. So therefore, one is to go step by step. You can't force yourself to non-duality. It has to take place gradually and naturally. Each person is different due to their own karma. Some with the great merit can realize faster, and some with the lesser merit will take longer time. And what that merit comprises are the two merits, relative merit and absolute merit. So therefore, now, how do we get to that stage? The question is, like tonight we are talking about meditation. How do we get to that non-dual, which is the true nature? We all want, you see, we all have one prayer. If you want to call prayer, if you want to have an aspiration, if you want to have a result, is to find liberation and happiness. That's the main thing. Reason we try to bring bodhicitta is to, happiness for oneself and others, and whether we want to find realization, happiness for oneself and others, because naturally on the great vehicle, means the big larger mind, the heroic mind, which is, heroic means, heroism has to do something that you did something for others. We would call someone, oh, that person is a heroic. Even in a blizzard cold weather, like in Colorado, someone, he or she has hardly just a very light clothes and are not afraid to go out and help people, just so barely any clothes, but would go and help people, whatever he or she can do, giving food or giving shelter or whatever. We call that heroic. But we don't call self, just because you go out nakedly, nobody calls that a heroic. In fact, that's called crazy person, right? Somebody able to go out, with barely any clothes, doesn't care about you about to give your own life for the sake of others. That's called heroism. So same thing here. Someone who realizes that bodhicitta mind within oneself, seeing one's true nature, wisdom mind, the expression of that is naturally compassion, which is inherent quality in all beings, not just you, all beings. As much as wisdom you have, other beings have. As much as compassion you have, potential is there in other beings too. Simply some have not realized and some have realized. But the potential is there in all sentient beings, not just human beings, but all sentient beings. So someone like that, who naturally strive for that, seeing that potential quality of bodhicitta, that not only seeing that within oneself, but seeing in all beings, it reaches out to all beings. That's what's great. The merit. And by creating that, finally getting deeper and deeper to that bodhicitta is called absolute bodhicitta. At some point, naturally, all your deceptions falls apart. You're just simply a clear light in some way. Let me put it that way. You can see you're simply a clear light instead of like ideas and reservations and, this person deserves compassion. This person doesn't deserve compassion. This person this person that. All those our ego's trip begin to simply fall apart. When that fall apart, then true, you enter the realm of non-duality, the primordial awareness. And when you enter the realm of non-duality, you have liberated all dualistic, phenomena, including ego trips, ego cherishing, egocentric, narcissism, whatever. All those neuroses simply falls apart. And that is how the mind is. Now, in order to get to that state, what we need to do first? First, we need mindfulness. We're not just going to get there just like that without having a, mindfulness and calm abiding state. From this busy mind right now is, like a whirlwind, like a hurricane, like a storm, that winds are blowing all over like 300 miles an hour, so to speak, and nothing, things are blown away. And how do you protect yourself? In a very strong shelter. And in a strong shelter, where there's a candle, and the shelter will protect from the wind, and the candle will light, and all people inside can see things, for example, like that. So first of all, the mind needs to be put in the right place. Without the mind putting in the right place, mind is like 300 miles an hour hurricane. That's what's happening in our life right now. Mind is going here, mind is going there. No, not even a moment of stability, not even a moment of calmness. It's just like blown away in all directions, 10 directions, with the afflictive emotions in 10 directions. And the consequence and suffering of that afflictive emotion that we experience without any stability. You can't even know when did you last time you ever rest. When you really look deep inside, when did I really rest for a day in the last 50 years? You can't even recollect one day that you really rested. Just a speck of here. Yes, I went to Hawaii, I have like a nice swim. But then, even while you're having a nice swim, but there's all this anxiety and confusion happening in your mind. You haven't really rested for 24 hours. You don't even know in the last, 100 millions of years, when did you really have such an experience? You don't. Your mind is always like going here and there and like a whirlwind. It is a whirlwind in the past, and it's happening in a whirlwind. Now, finally, how do I bring this mind? If we have to find liberation, how do I bring that? So first thing you need to have, calm abiding mind. So calm abiding mind, there's two parts. One is the mindfulness, and one is awareness. First of all, we need the awareness. We don't really have, right now we don't have awareness. Our mind is simply lost. Lost means no awareness, in other words. If you have awareness, you wouldn't be lost. The fact that you don't have awareness, therefore you are lost. You may be lost in your past, you may be lost in the future, you may be lost in your present, some states of, some different state, imagination, thoughts, idea, or fantasy, or whatever. Because not aware. You're not aware of I'm lost. You're not aware of, I'm daydreaming, or I'm lost in fantasy, or I'm lost in imagination. You don't have that awareness. That is the root cause of samsara. That's the ignorance. There is a reason why we call ignorance, because you're not aware. Wisdom mind is aware all the time, while the ignorant mind is not aware. That is the difference. And if you're not aware, that's where the afflictive emotion creeps in your mind. Because there is no protection for you. It's like your treasured door is left open and the thieves comes and take it out because you're not aware. Same thing, all afflictive emotion and habits and subconscious gossip, they all creep in because you're not aware. So the first stage now is to be aware. So what that is to be aware, how your mind is wandering now. When you sit and meditate, now thought is arising. You're not aware of your thought arising. Before you're not aware of whatever is happening in your mind, you have no idea. You're not aware of that. So therefore, awareness becomes extremely important. In the Kagyu tradition, called Ne Gyu Riksum. Ne means, Nepa means where it's, how to put the proper English translation. Nepa means like, where did it settle? Sort of like settle. Gyua means movement. I still couldn't translate ne, Basically, ne means a place, But in the context of practice of meditation, in the Tibetan, it's like a Jewish chuspa or whatever called, when you say ne, there's an understanding of that. But in English, if I say place, that doesn't make much sense. But anyway, let's put it, name is existence. So I think the closest that I can translate, maybe there's someone else can translate better, but I can translate is existent, where it exists. Ne, in Gyua means the movement, and Rigpa means aware, awareness, knowing whether mind is existing or whether mind is in movement, that one which knows is awareness, Gyua, Rigpa awareness, Ne Gyu Riksum. So therefore, the Rigpa awareness is very important. Is everyone now hearing this? Okay. So awareness is very important. The fact that we are constantly lost is because we are not aware. That's what creates all our afflictive emotion, and we get lost under the influence of the past habits of afflictive emotion, and of course the root underlying cause is ignorance. And so therefore that's what creates samsara. There's no other samsara beside the confusion of this mind. So now in order to clear that confusion, first we need awareness in meditation. So when you sit and meditate, normally a thought comes, you have no idea, you're one with it, so to speak. Now when the thought comes, this thought arises. So you're aware of it. And then once you have awareness, then the awareness needs to be, continued. Because right now you're not strong enough to hold the awareness. During the meditation time, as you keep trying, it's like we call trials and tribulations. I guess that's probably the right way to say in English. You will fail and then you will, succeed. You will fail and your success doesn't come without much failure. There will be lots of failure, but then persistence will keep you success. And that's where the success, tool of the success is called mindfulness. The one which will build up the awareness is mindfulness. Without mindfulness, that when you're lost, there's no one to catch. Mindfulness is like, one which will catch up right away. If you get lost, your awareness gets lost. And so what do you need to do? The method at that moment, depending on different levels of meditation. So if you're doing like the breathing meditation, you're simply aware there. But awareness doesn't mean that you need to make some big issue of awareness either. You simply, it's aware, that's it. You're aware that thoughts are arising, but then at the same time, it never says that you should grasp to the thought, you should, cling. It says, in fact, how you should do is total relaxation. It shouldn't be uptight, whether physically or whether mentally. Mental state should be like you drop down, so to speak. If you like a cowboys, when they have the lasso to catch the cows and horses, then, and they pull things up. But that's like tightening. Here you want to drop it. I think there's a good English word, drop it, just like, drop the whole thing. The awareness should be, knowing that you don't have to, awareness should be basically, in other words, the way you bring the awareness is total relaxation. Relaxation of mind and relaxation of the body. And remember, when we talk about relaxation, sometimes beginner student may try to be really like, oh, I got to really relax and relax and relax and get more and more uptight. It shouldn't be like that. Relax simply means relax, just drop it. And then mind also, you drop the past, present, future thoughts and conceptual. And doesn't mean you should stop the thoughts. That would be wrong. That'll be even furthermore danger. I would rather have you daydreaming than try to suppress a thought. The choice between those two, both are not great, but one is a better choice, is to get lost rather than suppress something that which will be furthermore damaging to the mind. So basically, both are wrong. If you go away with the movement of thoughts, then you lost awareness. Because right now also, we all have movement of thoughts. We have movement of thoughts of the past, we have the movement of thoughts of the future, we have the movement of thoughts of the present. That's happening all the time. And if that is what we are trying to listen today, that mind is a movement of thought, you don't need to hear that. You already know that. You're actually living example of that. You're living in your past, you're living in your present, you're living in the future. But you're living without awareness. So when you lose the awareness, that's where, as I said, the ignorance and afflictive emotion creeps in. And that's the problem. That's the big problem. Because that problems bind us in confusion, and it comes with afflictive emotion, and that is the cause of our suffering and confusion, which we are trying to free ourselves. We try to free ourselves from that. So for that, first of all, in meditation, you need to develop awareness. Your thoughts will come, but you don't suppress the thought. Neither you go after the thoughts. You just simply allow and let the awareness, without much, as it is said in meditation, lesser the expectation, the better the meditation. The more expectation you have, then you are creating conceptual again. Oh, my meditation should be good. It should be clarity. It should be, in clear light. I should transcend thoughts. Then the more you create those thoughts, then again you're losing the awareness. Called Rigpa. You're losing the awareness. Rigpa is simply staying there and seeing that and just being in natural state, in fact. You simply breathe in, simply breathe out. You're just aware. No big deal. It's like a Zen saying, I haven't read much about Zen, but the meaning is same. When I eat, I eat. When I walk, I walk. When I read, I read. So to me, you don't create, means you're aware. When I eat, I'm aware. When I read, I read. When I walk, I walk. Means you're aware. You're not just like mindless. Our life situation is more like a mindless life situation without awareness. Under the influence of duality, under the influence of afflictive emotion, under the influence of habitual pattern, your dualistic mind, neurotic mind, is making you the object rather than you see them and freeing them. They use you and tied you up more in samsara. It's working the other way around. You think it's working this way, my free will, I want to do this. But actually, when you really look into it, you are tied up to those neuroses, afflictions, that you find hard to be freed from that. You become an object of your neurosis, rather than you, through your awareness, that able to free that. You don't even see that. How can you even be aware of it? Therefore, the extreme meditation is extremely important. Extremely, extremely important. Without meditation, we're not going to understand the mind. We're not going to find calmness. Let's not talk about liberation. So key to that is meditation. And it's very simple. You just sit straight, your spine is straight. If the body is straight, then the Lutana Tsatang, Tibetan say, if the body is straight, then the channels are straight. Tsatang and Lungtang, if the channels are straight, then the energy which flows is become balanced. Lungtang, then sim selba, means once the channels are clear, then your mind naturally is clear. It's like the posture of just simply the posture of the meditation brings, almost half of the meditation comes from the posture of meditation. And the half comes from your awareness. But now if your posture is wrong from the very beginning, instead of sitting in the right posture, you're lying down, you're on a couch, sleeping, trying to do meditation, you will fall asleep. Or you try to be, too, rigid in your meditation. I have to be really good. I have to really do it properly. Then again, you become too rigid. So rigid is the wrong approach to meditation. And true sloppiness is also the wrong approach to meditation. It should be in the middle, right. The word middle path is very powerful. There was Shakyamuni Buddha's nephew, I think. And the Buddha's nephew, when Buddha taught him meditation, he could not really understand how to meditate properly. But he was a great violinist. And then Buddha asked him, how do you play your violin? With too tight string or too loose string? And he replied to Buddha, he said, if you play it with too tight string, then there won't be good sound. And if you put it too loose, of course, there will be no good sound at all. So you need the right balance in the middle. I think same thing that we all should do in life. Whatever we do, we should have right in the middle. Then that can go the right way. So whether your sitting posture should be, comfortable, relaxed, not too tight and not too sloppy. And our mind also, not too much, it shouldn't be too goal-oriented, so to speak. Oh, I have to do this. I have to realize clear light. I have to realize non-duality. I need to transcend my mind from all confusion. Then if you put too much pressure, it will build up a lot of obscuration. That also is not good. So right, the middle one. You just simply do it. Neither you suppress the thought, nor you go after the thought. If you go after the thought, then that's like usual pattern. It didn't help us. And if you suppress the thought, then again everything will be blocked. It goes towards ignorance. In fact, it says that those who meditate that way can be born in the next life as groundhog and bears. Like bears hibernate for like few months every winter, like that our mind, they stay in a state of mind like hibernation. Or like groundhog, they just stare for a long time in one direction. Even some people come sometimes, there are certain animals, they wouldn't know. So like that, or like a person meditating, you do like this in front of them, they're like totally absorbed into a state. Like too much the minds get drawn in. So mind should be really like in the right posture and then with awareness. And then mindfulness. That is how you begin to learn about the mind. You begin to understand yourself. You begin to understand how afflictive emotion can be destructive. And then you begin to see the liberation of that destructive nature of afflictions begin to remove or find liberation. Then you find the openness, the joy, and freedom at the same time without the ego strip. So it's become infinite, all-powerful, But that is all what's in our mind. So therefore, in order to find nirvana, liberation, you need to have understanding, first of all, the awareness. Okay? So now let's do a meditation here. Everyone sit in the right posture, whether you're in a chair or whether you're in a lotus posture. And then your body relax and your mind, clear and with awareness. Be aware of what's going on. But don't go after the thoughts at the same time. Just simply aware doesn't mean that you run after the thoughts, you will lose your awareness. Yeah. Okay, so if you have any questions, we can have question period now.
I have one question, Rinpoche. What's the connection between awareness and relaxation?
Relaxation, when you watch yourself being, too uptight, so to speak, whether it's physically or whether it's mentally, gets so fixated, so to speak. That's where you need to relax. So it's part of the awareness, knowing that. Yeah, awareness, knowing that you're getting too uptight. Yeah. And that's what awareness tells you. That's the wrong approach. You need to not do that. That's what the awareness tells you. And then when you apply the pit instruction or the antidote, then you can feel yourself free from that uptightness. Yeah. So you need to apply each antidote, whenever those arises, habits and affliction arises, you need to apply that antidote. That's what the awareness is about. Yeah.
So noticing it would be the mindfulness, and then applying the antidote produces the awareness.
Say that again.
So noticing that you're lost in thought or uptight or tense.
Awareness means rikpa. Rikpa means seeing it. Because right now we don't even have awareness, what I'm saying. Afflictive emotion and ignorance don't have awareness. It's just the mind is totally lost. And so therefore you begin to experience all kinds of, mainly 99% suffering and confusion. You see? So you can say 99%, whatever, our suffering is so much intense because of not having the awareness. If we did have the awareness, we would not put ourselves under the influence of ignorance. Nobody wants to put in their sane mind. Nobody would allow them to be totally get carried away by misconstrued intelligence, which are all our afflictive emotions. Because losing the awareness, therefore the mind is under the influence of ignorance. This is what happening. So now through meditation, once your awareness gets more and more deeper and clearer, those, antidotes are naturally applied, so to speak. Like I heard today, there is, for example, diabetic, certain insulin you can put in your body. And then whenever the sugar rises, it applies automatically. Something like that. As you deepens your awareness, it will naturally deal with that. And at some point, then, as I said, that non-dual realization will take place. At that time is the elimination or cessation of ignorance. Yeah. So it is start with awareness. So therefore awareness is very important. Yeah. And the mindfulness which supports that awareness, support is the mindfulness. Right now, what we have, instead of awareness, we have, no awareness. Distraction, exactly, distraction. Totally get lost, wandering mind. And the support is the ignorance and afflictive emotion. And so that's what's created a whirlwind of confusion. And no calm abiding, no joy. Yeah.
Thank you, Rinpoche. There's a few questions in the chat. Maggie asks, she says, how to make sure we have sincere renunciation? And then she says, one second. How do we develop sincere renunciation of worldly concerns and not be strangled in the world? how do we not fall down again?
Genuine renunciation comes from, there are three kinds of suffering. The suffering upon suffering, the change of suffering, and conditioned suffering. Suffering upon suffering, let's say you are hungry and then there's a, it's like in the middle of the summer, let's say like 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Then while you are hungry, then there's so much heat. So it's one suffering upon suffering. So that doesn't allow you to, of course it's a suffering, you want to be free from that, but that's still not deep enough for you to renounce it. You see, even animals have that experience. They can also understand those two kinds of suffering, suffering upon suffering. Then there's a change, next is change of suffering. So let's say that's what we all go through there. Sometimes we eat a delicious food and then suddenly it turns into indigestion. And so there's like a change. You're hoping, you're enjoying something, and then suddenly everything is destroyed by indigestion of food, for example. So like that kind of situation happen in life. Now that is also not deep enough for you to renunciate, because you think it will pass by and you can move forward. Now the third kind of suffering, which is called conditioned suffering, that even, let's not talk about painful things, but even the pleasurable things, as they say, that all good things comes to an end, right? There's a saying, all good things comes to an end. Even pleasurable things, that one day you'll be separated, or your body cannot handle, things changes. That basically what it meant, even the pleasurable things it will give you pain at the end of the day. Such as your body, for example. Your body, when we're youthful, is a source of a lot of strength and joy. But then as it decays and we no longer, when we get older, and then our vibrancy, vitality begin to diminish, and then we couldn't do the things what we can do when we were young and strong. And so this body which has given you joy at an early age no longer gives you the joy at a later age, for example. So the very thing that in samsara that we think is pleasurable, it brings us pain, power. You can be the president, but once you lose the presidency, that very makes you a president, makes you like joy. Of course, these are all temporal joy. But now you're losing it, you're giving up. So this becomes the cause of suffering. So the whole thing, whether it's political power or wealth power or fame or beauty or all these phenomena, that they're all sorts of suffering at the end. So when one truly sees that is the futility of that, the insubstantial quality of that, then you really begin to see, what am I attached to? Why am I allowing myself to be so attached to this and fight for this? And in order to achieve a little bit of worldly power or wealth, I have to steal and I have to, do all kinds of negative actions and things that which will further put me deeper into suffering state at the end. So therefore, one feels a deep sense of renunciation from the suffering and the cause of that which is suffering. And then one feels deep sense of renunciation, to samsara, to oneself, to the other people. And then one wants to move forward from that. And then one see, now what is that mind which can bring happiness? Then one's begin to see, calm abiding state. Then one begin to see the bodhicitta mind, the compassion mind. Then, all the qualities such as forgiveness, loving, kindness, compassion, bodhisattva mind, and then finally the wisdom, which is the most deep, and that's what I want to achieve. So the turning point will be to genuinely experience the conditioned nature of samsara. That even the conditioned nature, not only the suffering of condition, not only is there in so-called suffering that we visibly know, but even the pleasurable thing, that will give you one day suffering also. Supposing, you gain a lot of wealth and you haven't paid the taxes to the IRS. That very wealth will give you joy, will give you pain. You have to go to jail, like Leona Hemsley. I remember, she's a very rich lady in New York City, and she has to go for a few years in jail by not paying taxes. And then, Hollywood star like Wesley Snipes or whatever his name, he also went to jail. So their wealth and power give them pain at the end. It's happening to everyone, not just them. It's happening to all of us all the time. No one is free from that. No one is exception from that. Yeah. As I said, political power, wealth, fame, beauty, everything at the end, the very thing which gives you thought that it gives you joy are the cause of pain at the end. Futility of samsaric nature. Yeah.
Thanks, Rinpoche. A question from Kyle. Both of my parents got diagnosed with COVID. They have been locked in their nursing home since March. My mother is in the hospital. When I told her I would be praying, she said, "Son, please pray for what is best, which may not be life."
Which may what?
Which may not be life.
Life, I see.
Yeah. So then Kyle asks, Rinpoche, what do you think about this?
Yeah, she's getting a sense of renunciation. You see, that's how. Because she said may not be life. She's seeing the futility of life. There's no escape at the end of the day from the futility of samsara. I may live, I may not live. She's seeing the futility. If she didn't see the futility, then she said, yes, pray and make me, get strong. But she said, may not be life. It's a sense of truly seeing the samsara. There's futility. No matter one day, everyone has to die, regardless of COVID or no COVID. So it's a very powerful experience. It's a sad also, because that's how samsara is a place of sadness. It is said that in the midst of fire, there's no coolness. In the midst of garbage, there's no perfume. Like that, in the midst of samsara, there's never a happiness. There's not even the tip of a needle. There's no happiness in samsara, actually. It's always, by condition, is imperfect, and that's what samsara is. So, of course, we must do prayer. Kyle, as, his parents, you must do prayer for them. And not only for them, all being, right now we're all going through a very difficult time. A lot of suffering people have, and we can relieve people's suffering through our prayers and support and help. And so we must all try to do the best we can. Yeah. But at the end, samsara is futility. There's no point of getting too attached to that. But doesn't mean, no attachment doesn't mean you disengage and run away. You engage further. When you see the futility, those who are caught up in that futility, your bodhisattva practice, you reaches out more to them. Yeah.
Thanks, Rinpoche. A question from Carol. Sometimes when I meditate, I start to have dream-like images, even though I've not fallen asleep. They are not thoughts, but dreams while awake. Is this a fault of meditation?
Yes, it is. That's daydreaming. Those conceptual thoughts. To put it in one simple word, it's conceptual thoughts influenced by habits, whether gross habits or subtle habits, whether this, basically it's influenced by habits. And you should watch that. There's no awareness when that dreams are happening. One is lost with the dream. So you lose awareness. And if you lose awareness, you lost meditation. You're not present there. You're not aware. You have to be present. The mind nature, generally said, difference between animate and inanimate. Animate is mind, right? Inanimate is no mind, like a stone. So difference between mind and animate and inanimate. Animate mind has a knower. It knows it. It simply knows it. Even it may not go to the level of awareness, but it has some level of awareness generally. Oh, I feel hot, you're aware of that. You may not be aware of your conceptual and afflictions, but you may still be aware of, if you put your finger in the fire, it will burn. You're aware of that. So there's the distinction of the mind, and inanimate have no awareness of that at all whatsoever. Whether you hit with the hammer or drill it has no awareness. That's the difference. But then furthermore, as we talk about mind, then the mind is not simply, not only a state, where we experience confusion, but it can get out of the confusion to the state of primordial awareness, to the state of wisdom mind. So on the path, while we are traveling on the path, for example, whether you're in a sitting meditation practice or whether in post-meditation state, your awareness is there. It doesn't mean that you lost your awareness when you are not in meditation. Ekopos, in sitting practice, like when you're walking, talking, driving a car, your awareness is still there. But the question is, at that time, that the awareness, that we learn through the sitting practice help us to be aware of, like in post-meditation state, compared to someone who have never done meditation, have no awareness whatsoever, completely lost the mind. So therefore, as the minds get deeper and deeper, you're more aware of your thing. And of course, you cannot change completely 360 degrees overnight from ego mind to no ego mind. You can't do that. Very rare beings can have that potential. There has been being in the past. When they sit down next to the teacher, they are ordinary being. When they stood up, they're like on the first bhumi or bodhisattva, second. There has been, but very, very, very rare, like the start of the daytime, which is rare. So then on the path, your awareness gets deepen and deepen, and then that's how, step by step happens. So while on the path, one has to be mindfulness and aware, the two things which will be the, your awareness is there, and then one who checks on your awareness is the mindfulness. These two has to accompany together like the two wings. Without the two wings, the bird cannot fly. Same ways, you need the awareness, the wing of the awareness and wing of the mindfulness, and then you will cross. So it will help you to overcome your daydreamings. It will help you to overcome all kinds of obstacles on the path. So this is very important. So when you're sitting, you're dreaming, it's simply dreaming, no matter what. So one is to get out of that state. Yeah. Next.
Thank you, Rinpoche. James asks, Rinpoche, a few teachings ago, you spoke about samsara actively trying to keep us from enlightenment and keep us here eternally. Could you elaborate some more about the sticky nature of samsara?
That's what I was talking tonight. When you don't have awareness, question of awareness, that's exactly what it is. As long as you don't have awareness, you will be roaming in samsara for endless eons, not just years, eons you will be wandering. For billions and trillions of years, you will still caught up in a confused state of mind. But when you begin to have the awareness, that is the end of your, being caught up in that. Like you begin to see the light at the end of the tunnel. That's why the difference of having awareness and not awareness. Yeah. That's all. Okay. Thank you all. So let's do a world peace prayer. In the world in general and in this nation, may not even the names, disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. In the world in general and in this nation, may not even the names, disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. In the world in general and in this nation, may not even the names, disease, famine, war, and suffering be heard. May virtues, qualities, and merit and prosperity greatly increase, and may continuous good fortune and sublime well-being perfectly rise. By this merit, may all beings gain omniscience, thus defeat the neurosis
and negative actions, which
are the enemies.
From the turbulent
Waves
waves
of
of
birth, old age, sickness, and
death,
death.
from the ocean of cyclic existence, may all beings be liberated.
Lo chula jirwa chinglo, chula lamdo dhubar chinglo, lamla parchi meba chinglo, tuna isuji chabar chinglo, uye rinpa chala suwa, garke parchi mi jung chinglo, nge samba dhubar, cho tumongu dhub zaldu su. Thank you very much. Good evening. Good night now. Okay.